He turned water into wine, I turned whiskey into songs. Too many second chances, too many too far gones. Gave me grace along the way, took my heart and led me home. Don't you see, it's a God thing for me. Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee.
Welcome to the Heartland Journal podcast with Steve Abramowitz, editor-in-chief of heartlandjournal.com.
Thank you, Porter Martin, and howdy, y'all. Welcome back. I'm Steve Abramowitz, and this is the Heartland Journal podcast. Please hit that subscribe button and pass it around. Thanks for doing it. That was a long month off, but we did it. Hope you had a Merry Christmas and New Year's off to a great start. The book is out, Songs About the Heartland, by me, Steve Abramowitz. Check it out at Amazon and Barnes & Nobles. But you're not here for that. This is the Heartland Journal podcast, the show whose voices inspired the book. On this show, we focus on our nation today with always an interesting person making a positive change in our community and lovers of truth. Today, we are talking with special guests, Mike McMahon and Martha Byrne, whose voice is prominent in the book. If you haven't heard the two episodes, beginning and middle of her story, go back and check them out. You'll need a box of tissues for Michael's story. Episode 162, December 20th, 2023, and 374 last summer. A 2-year saga in the making with a made-for-TV happy ending. Both here now with me. Martha Byrne and her husband, Michael McMahon, have been married for over 3 decades. She is a noted actress, widely known for her works in As the World Turns, Anna to the Infinite Power, General Hospital, and Anacostia. Martha told the New York Times, "Michael got all of my jokes. I'd tell a joke and he'd laugh until he had tears in his eyes. He really honestly thought it was funny, and it was great. Performers need that." Michael is a former NYPD cop, earning 75 commendations, including the Police Combat Cross, turned private investigator. He was convicted of spying for the People's Republic of China in 2023. However, he remained firm that he wasn't aware of his involvement with the Chinese government. In early 2025, McMahon was ultimately sentenced to 18 months in prison. On November 7th, 2025, President Donald Trump approved a pardon for Michael from prison. The White House praised the former New York Police Department sergeant for his law enforcement service, touting his commendations and service in the aftermath of September 11th, 2021, and cast Trump's decision to pardon him as one of fairness because of what it said were issues with his trial. As a private investigator, Mr. McMahon was indicted for his work investigating an individual he was told had embezzled funds from a construction company. In reality, the people who had hired him were actually Chinese spies, the White House said. CNN reported the guilty verdicts were the first trial victory in the Justice Department's efforts to combat Operation Fox Hunt, the Chinese Communist Party's international alleged anti-corruption campaign targeting those the Chinese government considered fugitives, often former officials of rich individuals suspected of economic crimes. Byrne and McMahon, now reunited, live in New York City, are parents to 3 children, 2 sons and a daughter, Michael Terrence, Maxwell Vincent, and Anna Marie. Hello, happiest New Year's ever. How are you two today?
Oh, hello. That was quite an introduction. We're still on the pardon, I don't know, victory tour, if you
The
want.
pardon high, the pardon exuberance.
Honeymoon high, yeah, whatever. We'll take it.
We'll take it.
We'll
It's
take it.
very surreal. I can't even tell you how amazing this has been, and it's kind of hitting us now. What a enormity of a decision that the president of the United States did for us, and didn't have to do it, and did the right thing. And we got to his desk, we got to the eyes of the president, and he recognized how horrific this was and got him out of prison. And it was unbelievable. It is still unbelievable. We're in DC right now, but it's incredible.
It's like training for a marathon, running a marathon, and 5 minutes after it's over, you're like, oh wow, all of that work, and here we are at the finish line. So Michael, I normally would start ladies first, but since I had 2 hours with Martha already, we were praying for you throughout. So happy to
Great.
have you here to celebrate the happy ending with you two on the same screen. Tell us from your perspective, what did you fall into that the whole world didn't want you free to talk about or uncover?
Sure. Back in 2016, early 17, I worked a basic private investigation case. I was hired to locate an individual who stole money from a Chinese construction company. He was living in New Jersey. They wanted to find the assets that he stole, and they wanted us to do a couple of days of surveillance in New Jersey. I hired two NYPD detectives, retired, to work with me. We did surveillance, did some background checks, and that was basically the extent of my case. 5 days of work, surveillance, some background checks, and that's pretty much it. 4 years later, I get a knock on my door at 6 o'clock in the morning. My house was surrounded by federal agents and local police, and I was arrested for the Foreign Registration Act and interstate stalking. Something I was shocked, didn't know what this was all about, thought it was a joke, didn't really understand it. They gave me the complaint. I read the complaint. It was all full of lies. And I said to the agent, "You sure this is me in the complaint? Because this is not me. What they were alleging I did was not what I did. I did basic surveillance, legal surveillance on public streets. Um, notify the local police each and every day I was out there doing surveillance. And that's what you do. You notify the local police if you're in their jurisdiction. That's more of a safety factor. You don't want them rolling up on you or neighbors calling a suspicious vehicle, and then you have 3, 4 cop cars surrounding you at that location. You burn the set, so to speak. It's more of a safety issue. So I notified the local police, and I did everything by the book. And then, 4 years later, they arrested me, and I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it.
Did the higher ups at the agencies, the police department, whatever agencies are looking out for law enforcement versus, is there any way to think that like something changed between you doing your normal course of business as a PI to that day in those 4 years to say like, there it's actually a political vendetta, not a regular, a crime committed?
Yeah, so we found out later on after my arrest that the guy I was surveilling was a CCP Wuhan official. He was a high-ranking CCP member from Wuhan. Um, he fled China to New Jersey with millions of dollars, set up multiple homes in the United States, California, New Jersey, and he was laundering all this money here in the US. They protected him for some reason, I believe because he was from Wuhan and because he was a CCP official. Maybe he was a double agent. Maybe he was working with the CIA. Maybe he was working with the FBI as a confidential informant with the Wuhan lab medical information stuff. We
Yeah.
don't know. We
So
assume
you
that's
really
why.
did stumble into something
Yeah.
multinational without
Yeah,
Yeah.
knowing
who
it.
knew? I mean, really, who knew? And the thing is that the FBI had an investigation on him in 2017 and proved that he had committed immigration fraud through the EB5 immigration program, obtained illegal green card. He was under investigation by the FBI in 2017. Ironically, the same week that Mike was following him, something came out in California from the FBI, but they never arrested him for that. That went away. So there's something darker here, deeper here, but he didn't do anything wrong. And
Yeah.
and when we went to trial, the Chinese subjects that were involved, allegedly the victims, couldn't identify him in court, said they didn't know who he was, so how could he be stalking them? They had no police reports, they had no pictures or anything like that. And so there's something very much darker going on. And then when he was found guilty, ultimately, the alleged victims never asked for any jail time for him and no restitution, no money. So they disappeared and a civil lawsuit against them that had been filed in New Jersey was surprisingly thrown out after the trial. So there's something much darker going on here, but he didn't. I mean, he wasn't,
No,
had
just a
nothing.
cog, just a piece of the
Yeah,
machinery
my
that
role
was in the
was
way.
such a small part of it. There was a whole big fox hunt operation, is what they call fox hunt operations. When they send agents here looking for people that are wanted in China, they send their own agents here and they scour the country and they find them and they sort of force them back. But I was used in this case to do surveillance and background checks. I didn't know what their goal was. I didn't know what their end game was. They never told me, and they would never tell a former law enforcement about their goals and their operations. They keep everything to themselves, which is what they did in my case.
Wow.
But the government turned it and said, "Oh, they told you. They must have told you, and you knew this whole operation," and creating this whole fake story and these lies. And I can't believe the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office got away with it.
Right.
Yeah, I want to get into that a little bit. But did the inmates and guards treat you like the hero you are, or were they cruel to you? Usually, not good for cops to be in general population with folks that you may have put there.
Yeah, so I was sentenced to 18 months in Milan, Michigan. It's a low security prison. I heard low security. I'm like, okay, that's doable. But when you get there, it's more like a medium max security prison. I was in general population, former law enforcement. It's not safe. It's not healthy to be there. My first day, I was sort of harassed a little bit. I looked like a cop. Day two, I was surrounded after there was a shakedown and they found numerous weapons in the facility in my area, drugs, cigarettes, marijuana, cocaine, knives, cell phones. So on day two, they surrounded me thinking I was a rat, thinking I was the one who let everybody know, all the guards know that there was all this contraband in the prison. I had nothing to do with it. I just got there, 2 days before.
Was this
Trying
Pennsylvania?
in Michigan.
Michigan.
Yeah, Milan, Michigan.
Yeah, they sent him
Milan.
600 miles away from us, which was, I couldn't see him. I wasn't allowed to visit him. Have no communication with him because he was supposedly a stalker. So I didn't see him for over 3 months. I could barely speak to him. Um, it was really scary, and it was deliberate that they sent him that far away from us. And the punishment just continued after even it never ended. It was a constant beatdown for the last 5 years, and we never won anything. We never got one ruling in our favor in 5 years. Nothing, not one thing, not evidence, not motions, not. He was supposed to be near us. He was supposed to be near home in a camp, like when they called Camp Fed, he was supposed to be near our home. And 3 days before he was supposed to go there, we found out by accident, and they're sending him to Michigan, 600 miles away. So it's been horrible. I mean, they
How did
like
how did you get the story to Trump to get the pardon?
oof, that
I
was a
I
long.
think she was amazing. She was my advocate, and she spoke for me when I couldn't speak. And she reached out to everybody. Not everybody called her back, and not everybody responded. But Mike Lawler, Congressman Mike Lawler from New York, was absolutely amazing, and my hero in this whole case. He took care of us. He
For
answered
years.
phone calls, wrote letters to the warden, uh, just to say this is an awful travesty. You got to release him from federal custody, put him in a halfway house, put him where it's safe. So that's what he did. He wrote letters for me, along with Congressman Pete Sessions and Ralph Norman from South Carolina. So I had several congressmen write letters, and that is what helped me get out of uh, the low security prison after 3.5 months
Hmm.
to a halfway house in Newark.
Yeah, I have a quote here from Mike Lawler, Republican from New York. He said, "I will continue to support efforts to fight this miscarriage of justice," which is awesome. No Democratic friends came out for you?
No, quite the opposite. We're from New Jersey, and when Mike Lawler first got involved with this case, he hadn't even become a congressman yet. He was still running, but he said, if I win, I'm going to help you, but I really recommend you reach out to your representatives first, just to it's really the right thing to do. I'm like, I knew they weren't going to help me, but I did it. And Cory Booker happened to be in the same building as our attorney, so I stopped by his office twice, wrote emails, never heard from him. Josh Gottheimer is my local representative. Nothing, never heard from him. And okay, you don't want to help us, whatever. But the point is if you have Chinese operations going on in New Jersey with CCP agents running around attempting to harass people allegedly, wouldn't you want to speak to a person who has dealt with this directly and learn more about what's going on in your own state? No. So, but I will say this is that in 2024, The GOP Oversight Committee, James Comer's Oversight Committee, which has 20 Democrats and 25 Republicans, they did a whole investigation on the CCP and every agency's response to the CCP, in-depth years investigation. And the DOJ got a failing grade, a red failing grade because of Mike's case. And they put an incredible brief inside that report into October of 2024. So technically, Democrats and Republicans are part of that report. So even though they might not have read it but they're aware of it and they agreed on, at least they had to be involved in some way. So I'll take that as a bipartisan recognition that this case was outrageous. And I'm so grateful to James Comer. Got to meet him here in DC a couple of times, thank him personally for what he did for us. And it did help. It really did help bring awareness to this case on a much higher level.
So you lived your life on TV, you know about happy endings and drama and all the rest. Hollywood is a very liberal town, as we all know. Were you a Democrat back in the day? And did Hollywood or any in the entertainment business rally to your side that you'd like to shout out to? And if not, would you ever vote Republican or Democrat again?
I'm like an independent. Like I voted for whatever is good policy for my family. And I'm always a conservative in a sense that I'm pro-life. I always have been. I'm an unapologetically pro-life person. Like I'm Catholic. I mean, I vote not party, but my family policy. That's kind of how I stand. Yeah, there have been people who've stood by my side. My Laura Lee Bell, who is one of my dearest friends, who's on The Young and the Restless. She's been a friend for decades. You know, always was my friend. It never changed, but it was never political anyway. She's not a political person. I there have been people behind the scenes that have called me and supported me, but are afraid kind of to do it publicly. For instance, I'll give you an example. So when Maurice Bernard had me on his podcast, who's on General Hospital, I love Maurice Bernard. I didn't really know him. This wasn't about politics. He's like, your husband, when this is wrong, I want you on my show. And when I flew out to do that, I'm like, you don't understand what a big deal that is. Like, this is not about politics. This is about what's right and wrong. So, you know, I still have, I've never not had friends who are still my friends, but how would I vote? I really vote for what's best for the country and my family. So, right now, Donald Trump is a Republican, but he's really not a politician. You know, he's more about the country. So, what he did for us, I mean, and by the way, all the Republicans that helped us did it because it was the right thing to do. They weren't, our vote necessarily wouldn't help them in their district. You know, we're from New Jersey. Like our vote doesn't necessarily count for the Congress. But overall, I feel the Republicans were so genuinely helpful to us.
Do you
With
think
great help.
if Kamala had won and Merrick Garland was still at DOJ, you would have gotten home early?
Absolutely not.
No way.
No way. Because there's so much of the Biden DOJ stink on this case. The prosecutors that came in after he was inaugurated were young, new U.S. attorneys that were added to our case who should not have been involved. There was a lot of dirty business behind the scenes with the Eastern District of New York. They were an Obama-appointed judge. We had Biden-appointed U.S. attorneys. You know, there's no way, because there was too much business with China, I think, with Biden.
Mm.
This was somehow connected to Hunter's laptop, I think. So I think they wanted to silence him and keep him as quiet as possible, not to, you know, draw more attention to their own crimes. It just came out with, I guess, it's the Charles McGarnacle, who was the FBI agent who was disgraced in New York. The OIG report about him said that the Bidens were using former Secret Service agents in 2017 to look up Chinese business partners and follow them and get their travel information. So I'm like, sounds kind of interesting. They were doing what they were accusing my husband of doing. So they are known to like lock up people for doing what they were doing and accuse
Exactly
them of
right.
doing something.
Yeah, they tried to do that to Trump 4 times.
Absolutely. And he knows that. And kind of that was kind of the conversation that I guess he had with Mike Lawler about like, this is wrong. And
Yeah.
he knows all about weaponization. So
Your
It's
stories are very parallel. Michael,
uh,
did you have doubts that the system that you worked in for all these many years and the commendations and just being a New York City hero, did you have your doubts that law enforcement would work for justice and that you would come home early and be vindicated?
Yeah, when it first happened, when I was first arrested, I wasn't really upset. I just thought it was a mistake. I'm like, all right, they'll figure it out next week and I'll be cleared. And then a month goes by and I'm like, oh, I'm not cleared yet. This is going further than I thought it would be. And then we started getting discovery, and I'm looking at all this discovery that doesn't really pertain to me. And then we get more discovery, and I see nothing really pertains to me, but they're still pursuing me as this, you know, stalker, this worker for the CCP, but there was no evidence that we've seen in it. And I said, well, we have to fight this because none of this is true. None of it really pertains to me. I notified the local police. I have all my invoices. I have my surveillance reports. I notified the local police. I hired 2 retired detectives. I committed no crime, and
So,
they
so,
still kept pursuing it. And then I was like, wow, this is going. Now it's a year. Now it's a year and a half.
all right.
They're not backing down. And
That's
then,
expensive. You have to have a defense lawyer and you have to
yeah,
pay
and
them
that's
to
part of
tell
their
them.
plan. Their plans, the U.S. Attorney's Office is to try to bankrupt you and deplete you of all your funds. And it works for a lot of people.
Not
And I
very
said to Martha, I
justicey of
said,
the Justice Department, is it?
yeah.
mm-mm.
And I said to Martha, I said, you want to continue this? I mean, they said they would maybe offer me a plea and maybe probation, um, but we would save, let's say, $1 million. And she says, no, we're not taking a plea. If we have to sell our house, we're going to sell our house. We are not taking a plea. You are not going before a judge and committing perjury and saying you did something wrong when you didn't. So we'll sell our house if we have to, and we're fighting this all the way. And I
And
said, okay.
thankfully, it didn't come to that, at least not that I know of.
No.
Yeah.
Um, Trump said key interviews were not disclosed and key witnesses alleged fabricated incidents. That's called perjury. Yet a jury convicted you. Are you suing New York and the feds for wrongful conviction and misconduct?
We're looking at options of what we can do. Unfortunately, meaning the FBI agents, the prosecutors, Congress members who disparaged him in a committee, a China committee hearing right after the trial, they get immunity. They get like immunity. They can say anything they want and never get charged. But in our case, someone said, if you can prove that they knew that you were innocent and they still violated your Fourth Amendment rights, like if they had evidence in hand, they knew you were innocent and still did that, then you have something to look at. And I think we have to look at all options. And it's not just for us. It's to show and make an example of them that they may not want to do that the next time. They may not want to keep spying on us for 10 years without probable cause and scaring my children and looking at all our emails and our bank records for 10 years. And like they completely violated our Fourth Amendment rights, and they put our lives in danger. So listen, we do what we can. Um, Maybe this will help other people's and people, and maybe it will stop. Look, if one of them is held accountable, if there's some way they lose their bar license or they or have to be called to a committee hearing in DC and explain this case. I mean, Mike Lawler was on the radio with us a few weeks ago, and he goes, I want hearings on this case. I want to know exactly what happened in this case for the American people. They deserve to know what happened here and why they protected the CCP for years and not an American family.
Yeah. And
We
the
need to know.
Chinese spy got probation. Zhang was convicted of spying for China in April 2024, handed 3 years probation, and walked out of the court that
That's right.
day.
That's
Why
right.
why do you think they went easy on him and put you away?
Well, that's it. That's the point. That's what we want to know. And the EDNY is riddled with these cases, and SDNY. It's riddled with these cases that are completely imbalanced. Why?
And are the
I was a
prosecuting
former,
attorneys still there, or did they
Only
leave
one,
with
only
Biden?
one, only
There's
really only two are still there.
two.
I believe I believe it appears to be that two of them were fired. So that's good news. That's
Mhm.
very good news. They kind of slithered away into their private lives, but you know what? They can't slither away. I'm sorry. It's not that it doesn't end that way as far as I'm concerned. But
I was a detective NYPD. So if I took this case and brought it to a local DA in the Bronx or Manhattan, and I said, this is what I got, they would have thrown the case out because it wasn't enough to prosecute anybody. But the feds were able to take the same stuff and prosecute me. That shouldn't happen in America. This should never happen to another American. Again, the way they did this trial and the way they lied to a jury
and the judge
and the judge,
That was perjury
and
all over the place. Yeah.
I
everywhere.
just couldn't believe it.
But
The
the
biggest
judge and
lie,
the judge and the prosecutors and even the defense, they all must have known from years and years of trials that this doesn't smell right. This is really bad. This, I mean,
yeah,
you're evident. You said you had your files. They must have been somebody squeezing everybody just to make this thing disappear.
Hmm.
yeah. We uh, we had what all this evidence, and they never used it in my favor. They dismissed everything I told them
Mm.
happened, and they were like, "No, you notify the local police so you could commit crimes." Well, what are you talking
Oh,
about?
that was
Notify
your
the local police?
alibi. Is
They were
your okay,
they
I
were
see.
spinning every good fact that I did against me. They
Yeah.
were telling the jury a whole fairy tale, and they believed
Politics.
this
Yeah.
fairy tale, and I
Just
was convicted on a fairy tale.
Yes,
yeah.
it's certainly a political hit job. Did Bernie Carrick, who passed away during this time, or Rudy Giuliani, who they ruined for politically backing Trump, or your union rep when you were on the force, anyone step up for you in New York City?
Bernie.
Oh, Bernie Carrick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, because he was part of the Pipe Hitter Foundation, which has always been supporting us since this happened. And Bernie publicly supported us and always
Yeah.
for years. And Rudy, we met Rudy. Rudy gave you his combat cross. I mean, I think we are all in this army or warriors of the same persecution. And Roger Stone, who was amazing for us in the last like couple of weeks before the pardon. I mean, he had me on twice, he had you on. I mean, and he was advocating to the president for Mike, and so were many others. And when Mike Lawler called him to tell him he was called me first, and then we patched in Mike because he was at the halfway house that he was pardoned. Mike Lawler said the president said, "I got a lot of calls about this Mike McMahon guy. Is he a good guy? Is he a good guy?"
Is it true that he's
He's a
really
really
that good of a guy?
guy. He's like, yes, Mr. President, he is that good of a guy. And
And Mike Lawler is explaining the story to us in the Trump accent.
it was great.
So it was pretty
It
funny.
was really great.
That is amazing. I saw some pictures of you. I think you went to Mar-a-Lago, but you didn't meet Trump, or you have met Trump.
No, we haven't been to Mar-a-Lago. We haven't met
Oh,
him yet. We haven't met Trump yet, but we were
At Bedminster.
yeah, we
oh,
were
that's
at
what it was. That's
yeah,
A
of
bunch of
course.
functions,
a
but
bunch of functions.
yeah.
Not
But
yet.
Never met him
you haven't
personally.
yet got to thank him in
Soon.
person for
No,
all he's done.
Hopefully soon.
hopefully soon.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
So New York City, famous for a lot of stuff, pizza, the Met, Madison Square Garden, Yankees, whatever, and a lot of crime movies, mostly because it's true. Probably right out of your case files, you could make all kinds of movies. Um, Brooklyn's Finest, American Gangster, Copland, Serpico, some of my favorites. Do you think what happened, Mike, was bad guys like former Mayor Elliot Spitzer and Anthony Weiner, these types, not them per se, but dirty guys who wanted to get ahead of the curve, had a war against private investigators like you and Bo Dietl because you were the good guys that would stop them if you knew what was going on. So they said, hey, let's make sure that all PIs are not at the top of their prowess because we got some things in the shadows going on. Do you think that might have been what happened here?
I think that was part of it. I think they were trying to protect Chinese CCP members, and maybe by arresting me,
City Hall, Tammany Hall, who's they?
The FBI.
FBI,
Yeah.
FBI went after
Yeah.
me because they're
Southern District in New York
confidential
and FBI were
informants.
trying to make sure that the local PIs and PD wouldn't get in the way of what they were trying to do, which is make it easier for the bad guys to get away with their stuff.
I believe that had something to do with it. FBI protecting their CCP assets.
Unbelievable.
Going after me, which is awful. Should never happened. And
Because
hopefully
there are Chinese police departments in New York City.
Oh, for sure.
You're not allowed to
Every
go in there and work together like a episode of Justified, right? With the U.S. Marshals. Like they got their own secret world going on. If you get anywhere close to it, they want to make sure you stay away.
Yeah.
And I
And
just wish they had come to him. I mean, if they had come to Mike in 2016, the FBI, and worked with him, what would have been stopped? The Chinese balloons, the police stations, they knew these things were going on, but meaning the FBI, want to handle it themselves and their own way. I mean, I'll give you an example is that, the Chinese police station in New York City, once it was exposed by the New York Post, it took like the FBI months to raid that place. It's like, all right, what's really going on here? So there's a lot of dirty FBI agents. We know who they are. In our case, there's plenty, but there have been whistleblowers who have come forward who are amazing FBI agents. Two incredible. One was the leading fox hunt FBI agent in New York City has come forward to support us. Outspoken. And also the supervisor in the Red Bank, New Jersey field office, who was the supervisor of the case agent in this case, has come out publicly in support of us, saying I'm outraged that in my office these guys are doing this under my nose and I'm not happy about it. So how amazing is that? So the good guys are speaking out and supporting us, and we'll have more of them coming forward. So
And
we'll
this was
always
all
look
under
out.
Comey and Ray, who are both been
Oh yeah,
fired now. So, the new sheriff in town, Cash Patel, I'm assuming is supportive of trying to get all the bad elements out. And your
definitely.
case is probably on his desk as something that was
Sure.
a miscarriage of justice.
Definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
he knows all about our case. Obviously, he was involved in some capacity regarding like making sure the pardon goes through. I assume, I don't know, but he has a mission. He's got a lot of cleaning up to do, but we have examples of what can be done to do it.
And
And
Pam
one of
Bondi as well.
the,
She's also there
Absolutely.
now versus Merrick Garland. Has she been supportive? Have you talked to her?
Haven't spoken to her yet, but she obviously was involved in getting this done. So we're so grateful. But you wanted to.
yeah, the one of the main witnesses for the government admitted on the stand to lying to the FBI agent 9 times. And I
Case
couldn't believe
dismissed, right? I mean, that's
You would
supposed
you
to
think
be
would think
tossed
case
out.
dismissed. Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
the
that means the judge. What do we think of the judge?
the judge allowed
Chinese,
she
they brought her in after they exchanged her with another judge, brought in a Chinese judge.
Your
And they
judge
also,
was a Chinese judge.
my judge was a Chinese judge, yes. They exchanged one of the prosecutors for a Chinese prosecutor. So
who never had done a case before.
yeah,
So it was like a lot of like bait and switch stuff happened.
everybody was Chinese except for me.
You're the only American.
Holy smokes. All right. Well,
Yeah.
that's a whole nother level of stuff I had not no, that's just corrupt.
Yeah,
Well, by the way, I mean, it's just important to note too is that regardless of anything else, in if you read the trial the transcripts, it is the prosecutor, the lead prosecutor, tells the judge that he wants to change the law, our law, to basically make it fit the case. I mean, he says that he wants to change the FAR law. That's not the words he uses, and the judge allows it. She allows him to change the law
during
and
trial.
during trial so that he
There
can
was a man named Buria in Germany who literally said, "Show me the man, I'll show you the crime." And that is what our jurisprudence was supposed to be the antithesis of, but it sounds like they went back the other direction for your
correct,
case.
correct,
So
correct.
what's next for you two? Martha, another book, Mike, back to work or stay in retirement?
Well, maybe a book, and we want to help other people that are going through the same process that we went through. Uh, we couldn't believe how many people reached out to us and said, I'm going through the same process as you. I've been falsely arrested. Can you help us?" So we're in the process of helping at least 10 people
Oh wow,
going
10.
through the same thing, falsely arrested, the same
Same playbook,
same playbook.
same
So that
New
makes me
York.
feel good, and we're doing it, for free. We're not charging anybody. We're just giving them advice and meeting them here in DC and in Philadelphia and Boston and South Jersey. So we're traveling, meeting people, and helping people every day.
I
Yeah.
knew you two patriots wouldn't sit on a beach somewhere and let it all roll by. Yeah, you'd be
Yeah,
activists and get involved. And
we
here's
have
my
to.
copy right here of your book,
Uh,
Martha,
thank
autographed. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
No
You're
one
welcome.
walks alone, you said, which is absolutely true. You walked this entire thing with Michael to get him where he is, which I'm sure it meant everything for morale. What was next for you?
Me?
Yeah, Michael said what he's going to do. Are you just going to do the 10 advocates and more,
I
or
mean,
you
I think I
have
can't.
another book in you?
Yeah,
Part of it. She's the
yeah, I
catalyst
think
behind
so. I
it.
think I have to take what I've experienced and use it to help others. And I become a very, I'll tell you, it's so similar when you write a story for a series or something as a writer. In the way you think about characters, it's so applicable to investigations and trying to figure out the look at things a different way. And through this process, I've become much more of a, I would say, investigator,
Yeah.
and finding those rabbit holes that lead to these incredible discoveries. I mean, without that kind of investigation, we wouldn't have found out that this man was CCP Wuhan official. He was like the mayor of Wuhan. I mean, the like what? But because I found enough, I just kept going and looking and digging and finding. And I'd like to be able to use that skill for something and someone and other people, who, when this happens to you, you can't see straight. I mean, you're emotionally in a vacuum of terror. So if we can help bring people out of that and give them some hope, then I feel like God has put us in this position to do that. And people come to you for a reason. So if they come into our lives, I want to be able to help them. So
You
that
certainly
first,
make a good screenplay if you decide
Yeah.
to get into directing or producing something
I'd
like
love to
that.
do that too.
Yeah.
Have
For
you
sure.
considered, because of all this, leaving the city?
Well, we don't live in the city. We live in Jersey. We're
Well,
actually
leaving
living.
the tri-state area, like getting the heck out of
I
that area.
know. Well, we've been in Florida for a couple of weeks, just kind of chilling out a little bit with family. And no, that means you're giving up then if you do that. That means that
We
they.
got to stay in the fight. We got to help other people.
But you
I'm
won
Jersey.
already. You're free. Now you can go live free anywhere you want and do
No,
what
I'm
you're
a Jersey.
doing. I
Yeah.
get
I'm
you.
Jersey. I'm Jersey. I don't care. I'm a fighter. We don't back down. We don't surrender. We keep going in, despite that, we have to keep going. Um, but we're New Yorkers in Jersey. We have to keep fighting for sure.
I get it.
We're
All
too
right.
young. We're
That's
too
awesome.
young, right?
Well,
Gotta
you're
keep
literally
going.
the fabric of the society, so it's good. They need people like you to stay
Thank you.
and fight the
Thank
good
you.
fight.
Thank
So, well, Mike and Martha, I just want to thank you for your time. I want God to bless you continually because it really has been amazing. Yeah, I started this show in like 2002, so really you've been like my first and most recent show. So I just think you guys are the fantastic. I'm so happy that it was a happily ever after story here. Tell our listeners where they can find out more about you, social media. Like you said, you might have another book coming, but if you have something else coming, let us know.
So you can follow me on X. It's Martha Byrne 1010, and on Facebook. And I'm always putting out more information. We're going to be hopefully writing a book soon about his experience together. We're going to be doing that, and just keep supporting. And thanks to everybody for supporting us. I mean, without the support of the fans and the people who followed us, and we would never have gotten where we are today without those voices that back you up and keep you afloat. So thank you for that, and just stay tuned. There's a lot more to come.
All right. Third act. We can't wait. That's gonna be great. Mike, anything besides
I'm
Happy
not
New
on
Year?
social media. You can follow me through her social media. I'm prominently displayed on her posts and
Somewhere.
pictures and
That's true.
so that's my social media all through her. So
And no speaking engagements or anything on the news that we can tune into.
That's coming.
That's
That's
coming
coming.
soon.
So you stay
Okay.
tuned to that too. We will be going out speaking publicly and probably across the country and doing some more advocacy that way too.
Wonderful. All right.
Education.
if the readers, listeners can, buy the book, it
Yeah.
explains the whole situation from start to finish, and it's pretty compelling.
Thank you. Yeah. And you can
Absolutely.
also go to the pipehitterfoundation.org, pipehitterfoundation.org, and there's a whole page about our story and that organization. I mean, just to support that organization, and they support first responders, military who've been falsely accused, and they were the first organization to actually come out and say, we believe you. So if you can go to their page and support our whatever you want, just to educate on who else is going through this and support that would be amazing.
Very good. All right. Well, thanks again for coming on with us. Hang on, everybody. I will be right back.
Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee.
Thanks for coming back. Please subscribe to heartlandjournal.com. Email address is all we ask, and you'll never miss a new show, still free. Now, the Heartland Journal news. Here's mine from today. Echoes of contested ballots. As an election observer with over 4 decades covering the intricacies of American democracy, I've witnessed how razor-thin margins can expose the vulnerabilities in our voting system. An examination of historical races like Al Franken's 2008 Senate win in Minnesota and Dino Rossi's 2004 gubernatorial defeat in Washington and their alleged ties to ongoing voter integrity debates is too similar to ignore. I'll connect these races to contemporary issues involving Governors Tim Walz, Democrat from Minnesota, and Bob Ferguson, Democrat, Washington, including allegations of fraud in Somali American communities and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden's 2022 visit to Minnesota promoting child care funds. Drawing on facts, I'll pursue a nonpartisan lens, highlighting verified events, reforms, and unresolved questions rather than unsubstantiated conspiracies. Let's start with the 2004 Washington gubernatorial election, a textbook case of electoral chaos that amplified concerns over mail-in and absentee ballots. Republican Dino Rossi initially led Democratic Christine Gregoire by 261 votes out of nearly 2.9 million cast, based on the machine count. Steve probably cast one. I did too. A mandatory machine recount narrowed Rossi's lead to 42 votes, prompting a hand recount requested by Democrats. During this process, King County, Washington's most populous and Democratic-leaning area, discovered hundreds of previously uncounted absentee ballots in a warehouse, some mishandled due to administrative errors, of course. Gregoire ultimately won by 133 votes after those ballots were included. Steve and I's were not those, leading Republicans to cry foul over potential fraud and lax oversight. Rossi challenged the results in court, alleging illegal votes from felons and deceased individuals, but a judge upheld Gregoire's victory in June 2005, citing insufficient evidence of widespread fraud. The saga highlighted issues with Washington's hybrid system, where absentee ballots, precursors to full mail-in voting, were common but prone to human error. By 2011, the state shifted to all-mail elections, a move praised by accessibility but criticized by some for security risks. This race didn't just cost Rossi the governorship, it eroded public trust, with echoes in national debates over mail ballots during the 2020 election. 4 years later, Minnesota's 2008 U.S. Senate race between Saturday Night Live comedian and writer Democrat Al Franken and Republican incumbent Norm Coleman mirrored Washington's drama, intensifying scrutiny on absentee ballots and recounts. Coleman led by 215 votes on election night, but a recount flipped the results, giving Franken a 312 vote margin after 8 months of legal battles. Controversies again centered on rejected absentee ballots. Franken's team argued thousands were improperly dismissed due to technicalities like mismatched signatures or witness issues, while Coleman claimed fraud, including votes from ineligible felons. The state canvassing board and court eventually included many of these ballots, tipping the scales. The Minnesota Supreme Court unanimously affirmed Franken's win in June 2009. A Washington judge upheld the election of Christine Gregoire, too. This race, like Rossi's, underscored how absentee ballots, often used by overseas voters, the elderly, military, and minorities, could become flashpoints in tight contests. It led to modest reforms in Minnesota, including better training for election officials, but critics argue it normalized prolonged disputes that undermine confidence. These historical episodes paved the way for each other. Rossi preceded Franken, but they collectively fueled a national discourse on voter integrity, particularly around mail-in voting and Somali immigration advocacy. Washington, with its early adoption of high absentee rates, became a model or cautionary tale for other states. By 2020, amid the pandemic, mail ballots surged nationwide, reigniting old fears. In Minnesota, allegations of ballot harvesting in Somali American communities emerged, notably into a 2020 Project Veritas video claiming illicit practices tied to Rep. Ilhan Omar's campaign. A 2020 press release from Republican lawmaker claimed massive voter fraud, quote unquote, in Somali areas, but courts dismissed related lawsuits for lack of evidence. Still, these claims persist, linking back to the absentee ballot debates of 2008. Fast forward to today, and the dots connect to Governor Walz and Ferguson through a web of political alliances and scandals. Bob Ferguson, Washington's Attorney General since 2013, won the 2024 gubernatorial race handily against Republican Dave Reichert, becoming governor in January 2025. His relationship with Minnesota's Tim Walz appears collegial, rooted in shared Democratic priorities. In December 2025, Walt attended a $2,500 a plate fundraiser in Seattle for Ferguson amid Walt's own re-election preparations. He has announced he will not run amidst today's scandals. The events drew criticism as Walt faced scrutiny over massive fraud in Minnesota's social programs, many benefiting Somali immigrants. Federal probes have charged dozens in schemes defrauding child nutrition, autism services, and child care funds, totaling over $250 million since 2022. The Feeding Our Future scandal involved Somali-led nonprofits, saw convictions for wire fraud and money laundering, with funds allegedly siphoned for luxury goods, actually carrying dollar bills through the airport. Critics blame Walz's administration for lax oversight, especially as the Department of Justice ramped up investigations in late 2025. Somali communities, while not monolithic, have been implicated. Adding irony, Dr. Jill Biden visited Minnesota in February 2022 to tout federal investments in childcare, joining Walz at the University of Minnesota's Child Development Center. How cozy. She praised the American Rescue Plan's $39 billion for stabilizing providers, emphasizing affordability for families, including immigrant ones. Walz echoed her, noting Minnesota's use of funds to support early education. Yet, by 2026, some of these programs face fraud allegations, with a recent HHS rule closing loopholes that allowed payments without attendance verification. This has fueled conservative narratives linking Biden-era spending to waste through expert-attributed issues to rapid fund distribution during COVID. Walz and Ferguson's cozy ties with Somali community in their state seem standard party networking. As we approach future cycles, the real lesson is vigilance, robust audits, bipartisan oversight, prohibition on mail-in ballots, and keep judges out of elections, and evidence-based reforms to safeguard democracy without disenfranchising voters. In a polarized era, distinguishing facts from frenzy is key, but the system put in place and ripe for corruption from the Rossi and Franken era lives on. That is it for this episode. Thank you, Martha and Michael, for being, Martha for being an amazing wife and person, and Michael for your service and bravery in the face of all that weight coming down on you unjustly. God bless you both. This is goodbye for now. I'm your host, Steve Abramowitz, editor-in-chief of HeartlandJournal.com. Peace in our time and glory to God.
Long way to Nashville from that Napa Valley vine. Put me on a road less traveled. Lord, now I know why. God knew I'd get there in His perfect time.
Heartland Journal Podcast is the media property of HeartlandJournal.com, where you can find news stories, commentary, and content serving the heartland of America. Any views or opinions represented on the podcast are personal and belong solely to the creator and do not represent those of the people, institutions, or organizations that the creator may or may not be associated with in professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated.
Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee. Now I write songs about the heartland. My heartland's in Tennessee.